Welcome to the NNBN podcast, talking with businesses, charities and organisations across Northamptonshire.
Sponsored by Poppy Design Studio. Find us at poppydesignstudio.com.
So welcome to another podcast, and it's great to be here. It's Simon here. You haven't got Marie. She leaves all this to me, but we know at the end of the day she's the brains behind the whole business, don't we? But there we go. This is my chance to express myself, get a chance to talk to people locally about what's going on, help them get their message out there, and I thoroughly enjoy it as well. So if you would like to be here on the podcast channel, please do get in contact with us. hello@nnbn.co.uk, or maybe pick up the phone and call us 01536 6483 83, and we'll get you on the podcast and talk to you about what you get up to. So recently we were talking to the Business Minister, Kevin Hollinrake, and also Liz Barclay, the Small Business Commissioner, about late payments and the impact on small businesses and businesses in general about late payments. But today we're going to continue the conversation around payment, because I've got Terry Corby with me from Good Business Pays. So Terry, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for your time and getting together to talk all about Good Business Pays. Do you want to give us a bit of an introduction to yourself about what it's all about and who you are?
Yes, I will. And you should know, or people in Northamptonshire will recognise that my name might sound familiar, because my family history work traces all of my family back to a town in Northamptonshire that has a similar name. So pleased to be on the podcast with you. Thank you for inviting me. So you've talked already to Kevin Hollinrake, the Small Business Minister. They are responsible, they being the government, for setting the laws, the legislation around fair payment terms, which is the area that we work in. And you've talked to Liz Barclay as the Small Business Commissioner, who's responsible for things like the Prompt Payment Code, which encourages people to sign up to a code and promise to pay fairly. Where Good Business Pays fits into that picture is somewhere in the middle of those two people and things. So my background, I spent the first half of my career in very large corporations, in C-level jobs, American organizations, UK ones, Sainsbury's, American Express, big companies like that. And the second half of my career was in consulting. I was a partner at Accenture and KPMG. And then I got into startups and digital. And finally, in the last few years, I was working with trade bodies, trade organizations. And when COVID hit, I was working with the creative industries, saw the filming stop, the theatres close, the music festivals finish. And most people who work in that sector are micro businesses or freelancers, and a lot of them weren't getting paid. And that was the first time I was introduced to this problem of not getting paid quickly, not getting paid on time, and of course understanding what it meant for those people. And when I started to look at what the problem was and why that was happening, it appeared to me that there's plenty of technology and ways that you can pay fast if you want to, a bit like when you get your house, sort of extended. You choose when to pay the builder, today or next week or next month. It's more a question of choice. It's more a question of a will rather than a way. And the fact that the government had set the rules was great, and that Liz Barclay, the Small Business Commissioner, was measuring things with the code was happening. Fast payment still wasn't happening fast enough. Late payment was still a problem, people not paying their bills on time. And this problem has existed now for more than 50 years in this country, and we are the worst in Europe at it. So that's when I decided to do something about it, not to create a new solution, because there are plenty out there, but to work more on the hearts and minds piece. And this is something that I've done before in a previous life with previous big campaigns. So I knew how to do it, created Good Business Pays, and we set out to bring an end to late and slow payments through hearts and minds campaigns.
Well done on doing it, because obviously we know the impact of late payments on businesses, and how it impacts on the supply chain, and how small businesses struggle sometimes to also get paid on time. But I'm guessing this isn't only small businesses; this impacts on some of the bigger ones as well.
It does impact on big through to small, and it impacts them because it's become a behaviour that's now accepted in business. I mean, you don't go into a restaurant, have a meal, and say, "I'll come back in 90 days or 120 days and pay for the meal I've just had." But somehow in business, that's become acceptable, and whether you are Unilever or Sainsbury's or Morrison's, or whether you are the people supplying the potatoes to those people and you're just a farmer down the road, it affects everybody, and it affects the whole supply chain. So McDonald's, which is a brilliant company at paying, they pay their suppliers in 1 or 2 days. I know that that their potato wholesalers take 50 days to pay the farmers at the end of the line. So what you've got is a blockage in the pipe, where money's not getting through to the people that need it. And although the big companies are the ones that scale stuff up, it's the small ones where invention happens. It's the small one when innovation happens. But if they haven't got the cash in the bank, they can't think like that. They can't do that. And that's why we concentrate on that group that is most affected, small businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all know the importance of cash flow, get money in on time. But you developed this during the pandemic, you say, to be able to put a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? You basically develop this to basically pull the information together to see who's paying late, so that can be identified to work with them and maybe help them as well.
Yes, we are, I suppose, lucky in this country in that the government some years ago decided that large companies should report on their payment performance, i.e., they should tell the government how long they're roughly taking to pay, what percentage of invoices are late. And that scheme, it's actually a law, has been in place now for 7 or 8 years. And what that means is that every 6 months, large companies have to report their payment data to the Department of Business and Trade. Now, that information's in the public domain. It's always been there. Not many people know it's there. It's hard to find. And when you do find it, like a lot of stuff that you download from government websites, it's a bit like how to build a nuclear bomb when you get the Excel spreadsheets of thousands of lines. So what we decided to do was to take a live feed from that data. And when you go to goodbusinesspays.com, everything is free, by the way. We don't charge for anything. You can find out, if it's a large company, what that company does in terms of its payment record just by tapping in the name of the company. And the way we feed you the answer to that question is a little bit like a car dashboard that lots of people will be familiar with. We'll say, how long do they take to pay? What percentage of invoices are late? And next month, we'll even be putting a live risk management score there as well. So you can decide whether you want to do business with that company. So we make it fun. We do have local authorities in there as well. So if you're working with local government, local authorities, we have every local authority in there as well. We'll soon have every NHS trust in there and all of the police forces. So what we're trying to do is to make information available to to any business actually, but we're talking about small businesses. So you can have a look at that and decide whether you want to do business with them.
So basically, if I was a small business owner that's looking to trade with some of the organisations that you mentioned, this would give me a rough idea at an annual snapshot, I suppose, in time, or is it actually live data that will give us, the payment performance of that organisation?
It's rarely more than 3 months old, so it's not live today. But finance departments and procurement departments don't change their purchasing performance very often. In fact, what we see now, because we've got 7 years of data, if we look across those 7 years, is that a company rarely changes its behavior in terms of how long it's taking to pay year in, year out, until and unless something happens. That something might be a change of leadership that might come in and say, hang on a minute, we don't treat our suppliers like this, let's pay them fairly. Or it could be that Good Business Pays publishes your name on our naughty step list. So you can go to our website and see who are the worst payers, the slowest payers, and you can see who are the fastest payers, who we give awards to. And what we found with the slowest ones is in the last 6 months, we've had 50 large companies that have more than halved their payment terms overnight because they've been published on these lists. So it really is something that you can change. And when you do that, you change it for thousands of companies.
Brilliant. I mean, I'm on the website as we're talking now, and I can see you've got the awards on there. And I think it's a great thing to do to actually recognise those that are actually performing with, quick, fast payment or payment within terms, because obviously we know the impact of costs, cash flow with it impacting onto businesses and everything that comes with it. But to actually recognise those that are actually doing it, I think is a great way. So on the website, if you have a look at it, you can see those that are fast payers. How's that sort of been accepted, and that's sped up payment, has it, amongst some of the bigger companies?
Yeah, when we started Good Business Pays, people didn't really talk very much about payment terms and payment performance. It was just accepted. And what's happened now with 3 years of awards and 3 years of naughty steps too on the watch list, as we call it, for the bad ones, people are starting to decide which list they want to be on. And those that have been awarded, and in November we gave 300 awards away. It's very strict criteria that get the awards, and 300 out of 6,000 is not that many, but they got those awards. And what we found was those executives were very happy to show off about it, and we did it for them too, how well they were doing, and their employees loved it, and their suppliers loved it, and I'm sure their suppliers felt much better about new partnerships and new deals they might be doing with them to know that they've got a customer of choice. And likewise, what we're also finding is for those companies that were paying badly that have improved, very often the CEO, and that's the level we're normally working at or talking to in these large organizations, just wasn't aware that their company was paying slowly because they're far away from where the accounts department is. And when they do realize the damage that they could be doing to small businesses, they make a call, they say, fix it, it gets fixed very, very quickly.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because it's not being done deliberately then. It's just literally just how some of these companies are actually operating. And I'm guessing this is actually highlighting that to actually enable some of these CEOs to actually adapt and change. So it's good that it's actually having an impact and actually help to speed up payment and bring payments forward. When it comes to the actual report, though, this is covering the whole of the country. Is that right? This is covering organisations all over the UK?
England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. Yes.
Fantastic. And does it differ in different parts of the country as to what the sort of the results that you see, or is it literally just as it is? It's just different organisations are paying what they're paying, or are you finding there's different parts of the country that a little bit faster payers than others?
It tends not to be not to differ by parts of the country, but more by industry sector. So there are particular industry sectors that have a poor record on payment. I'm thinking particularly of the food and beverage industry, which is pretty bad. I'm thinking of construction, which for a long time has had a poor reputation for slow payment and late payment, although they're getting much better now. I'm also thinking about retail as well. There are lots of retailers in this area. And surprisingly, technology and digital companies are not as good or as fast at paying as you might think. So regardless of where you are in the country, certain sectors are pretty bad. In financial services, insurance and what have you, they tend to be really fast.
That's really interesting, actually, because I didn't really think about it until you just mentioned it just there. But obviously, it's down to sector rather than different geographic locations or something. Because obviously, different people got access to finance quicker within their organisations and cash, which, as I said, we know is important. But to actually hear it's all about the different industries and. Really interesting. And surprisingly, digital, I'm surprised at that one, I must admit. That's an interesting one, that one.
Well, you say that, but you take an area like retail. If you go into the supermarket, you try saying to them, I'll be back in 90 days to pay for the shopping trolley. You pay for it as you leave the supermarket, right? But why should the people who provided the goods and grew the goods and packaged them some time ago and provide them to the supermarket have to wait to get paid? Asda is doing a terrific job at the moment. So a shout out to Asda at looking after their very smallest suppliers and paying them in less than 15 days. I've spoken to a lot of Asda small suppliers who are really happy about that. I wish that the other supermarkets could do it, because if one can do it, they could all do it, but they
Has
don't.
it has it got worse over the years, or is it's being cleaned up? Do you think, from all the information and the data that you're actually seeing?
It was a few years ago, it was very bad, and it had got worse over quite a few years. When COVID happened, not just because we started doing the Hearts and Minds stuff, but when COVID happened, there were quite a lot of sensible people in finance and procurement that said, hang on a minute, I can see that there is a lot of risk in our supply chain because these little companies might go bust because of what was going on in COVID. We ought to pay very quickly. And a lot of companies sped up payment performance and reporting and what have you during COVID because of that, to protect their supply chain. And some, the better ones, have said at the end of it, coming out of COVID, let's carry on doing that because we've seen benefits from it. We did then see quite a lot going back to their old ways. I was on a call with a bunch of construction companies last week, and one of the executives that called in said, isn't it better in a recession to hold on to cash? So we are still in a situation where we've got some old-fashioned thinking where, I've got the oxygen tank and I might just step on it a little bit, the pipe that goes to you, so I've got more than you. We have to stamp that out completely, but it is now getting better. What we do have to do, and I think probably what your members might be interested in, is a lot of these big companies are going to, by choice or by regulation, because a lot of the work we do is lobbying both the Conservative and the Labour parties. They're all saying they're going to stiffen up the regulations around payment practices. So change is going to have to come to big companies, and big companies will mean that what that means for them is they'll probably start gearing up now over the next 12 months to pay faster. That'll probably mean electronic means of payment, right? Because that's how you get faster payment, is through digital. And there will be a learning curve for small businesses, because if I'm a big business and I change all my processes in order to pay you faster as a small business, there's got to be something on the receiving end, which is I know how to fill out the forms. I know how to put my invoice in properly so that I can receive that payment fast. So it will be important for smaller businesses to engage with the digital process, e-invoicing, and all those things that come along.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, it's really good to hear that this is going on, and you've identified some of the fast payers and also the slow payers. You recognise them with awards as well. How can people get involved if they want to learn more? Because I'm looking at the Good Business Pays website, and on there you've got support for your business and voice your support. So what can people actually do to actually support some of the work that you're doing, apart from obviously pay people on time or pay people quicker? Is there more that they can do?
Well, what they can do, especially if they're a small business, is, and they support what we're doing. Well, number one is they can just use the information, right? That's there for them to use, have a look at it, follow us on LinkedIn, because that's where you'll know. We always post on LinkedIn our latest stuff when so follow us on LinkedIn, and then you'll hear the latest stuff. But the other thing that they can do is in the About Us section on our website, we've got a section called Resources. And in that resources section, and maybe you'll send a link out to people, there are some little banners that you can put on either your email footer or your invoice that says, we support Good Business Pays, pay in 30 days or less. Now, why is that important? A, because it sends a message to your suppliers that you, even as a smaller business, are keen on paying them promptly. And it also means if you're billing a larger business or another business, that you require to be paid within 30 days and that you think that's a good idea. And the more we use those, it becomes part of behavior and normal language. And that's all, again, free to download, free to use. Use it and share it as much as you want.
Yeah, well, it's something we're certainly keen to help share. Keep the message going around the importance of paying people on time. We've signed the prompt payment code as well, as even the organisation signs we are. And really proud to be paying people up front on time, and not even on credit terms. It's a case of if we've got it, we spend it. If we don't, we won't. It's as simple as that, because we don't want debt attached to the company or anything. But what we want to do is make sure people are aware of this, and we'll happily support anything that's going on around paying people on time and making sure people do get paid, because there are small business owners out there that are obviously knocked on from late payments from the supply chain and everything. And the smaller the business, sometimes I think the more of an impact it can make, because we don't have the access to actually getting access to overdrafts and bank accounts and funding into the business sometimes. And some of this literally is food on the table for small business owners. So whatever we can do to help support what you're doing, Terry, you've got our support as well, and we'll happily wave the flag here in Northamptonshire.
Good luck to you, and we're happy to support all the work that you and your members are doing too. Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for getting together. I really do appreciate your time. And if anybody does want to know more, have a look at goodbusinesspays.com. Back the campaign. Have a look at the reports that are out there, especially if you are looking to trade with a particular organisation that's listed on there. Terry, final words. Is there anything you wanted to just finish up with today, just to as an important message around what people can do?
No, I think the only thing I would say, I'll put a shout out to Amanda Foreman, who, if she's not a member in your organisation, she should be, and your members should talk to her. She's a brilliant photographer that takes the pictures at all our events, and she's based right in the middle of Northamptonshire.
Fantastic. I don't know. I've never come across
Listen,
it, but
really
we're always
enjoy talking to
intrigued
local
about what's
people
going on around the county and some of the small businesses we do have. We're always happy to talk to them, and there's lots of free resources we've got on our website, which we're always looking to make sure people are aware of what's going on. So maybe there's local information we've got for her as well. So if she wants to have a look at what we're doing, if she wants to appear on the podcast as a guest as well and talk about what's going on, always happy. Don't have to be engaged in what we're doing, but obviously we thoroughly enjoy what we do, and we enjoy hearing the stories and catching up with people around the community. But thanks for joining us, and we'll catch up soon.